good. Okay, welcome. I think everything is set right. If something isn't working right with the audio or something like that, let me know. But everything worked for my morning class, so I think we're good to go. So, welcome. This is Math V46 at Ventura College. College algebra is what we're looking at. So basically today is just going to be an introduction. I'm going to explain to everyone what the class expectations are, how you're going to get those things done, how you're going to set everything up, what it is that you're supposed to do on a regular basis, basically getting you the information that you need so that you can then plan accordingly to complete the course successfully, and you know what it is that you're supposed to do. Okay, so maybe wait on questions for now. I'm going to be covering lots of different topics, but if I do cover a topic, like say I talk about exams and then I move on to something else, feel free to ask a question about exams. If I've covered that topic and moved on, go ahead and ask a question. You can just throw a question into the chat if you like. If you want to ask your question, if you're in Zoom, then by default, it's generally good Zoom etiquette to be muted unless you have a reason not to be. So if you're talking, like if you're going to ask a question, or if I see you have a question and then I ask you or something, you can unmute yourself and talk. But in general, we want to be muted. Otherwise, we hear people's dogs that come in and start barking and creaky doors opening, and people who forget there's a class taking place in someone's room and they walk in and start talking. So it's just good to be muted in that scenario. So let me explain a couple things here. We'll open class meetings. So remember, there's two ways to consume these. Excuse me, I get the hiccups now. There's two ways to consume these meetings. There was a YouTube link. So it's live streaming onto YouTube, and then it gets closed captioned within an hour or two. And then also it gets stored. And later today, I'll create a playlist for my two synchronous classes. So that way, if you miss a class, you'll be easily able to go to the YouTube channel and watch the class that you missed. Now, here's the thing. The visuals that I'm going to be showing you in class get streamed to the YouTube channel, and I can't, on Windows, you can't stream video two different places. So that means it's not going to the Zoom meeting. So if you're in the Zoom meeting, you're just, as you can see right now, you're just seeing the green screen behind me, the green wall, whatever. If you're in the YouTube stream, you'll actually see stuff where that green screen is. You'll see the things that I'm talking about. So it's up to you how you want to consume the video lectures. What some people like to do is they'll watch the YouTube stream on mute and then they'll listen to me on Zoom. That's one way to do it. Some people just watch the YouTube stream. It just kind of depends. Different people have different levels of comfort with watching streaming. For some people, that's a new concept. For some people, they spent the last few years watching streaming stuff. So it just depends what level of comfort you have. It's just that there is a little bit of a time delay between the stream and the Zoom. So you want to have one of them muted. You don't want to have both audios going, because then it sounds kind of wild. So however you want to do it. If you just want to hang out in Zoom, you can, but you won't see the visuals when I show you things. If you just want to hang out in the YouTube stream, you can do that, but then you can't just ask me a question live. Or like I say, some people do a mixture of both, where you watch the YouTube stream and listen to the Zoom meeting. However you want to do it, right? It's totally up to you. I will be taking roll. I'm going to wait a little bit just to see how many people we have come in. Some people are late on the first day, so give people a time to come and show up. Attendance is important. Missing too many classes will result in being dropped from the class. So you do want to pay attention to that, and I'll cover all of that stuff today. We're going to talk about all those things. So we meet Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 3:15. We will meet here in Zoom. The class will be more like, because technically I'm supposed to give you a 10-minute break for each hour. So the class will actually be a little under 2 hours. because we'll pretty much just teach straight through, and we'll take the breaks at the end. So we won't quite go to 3:15, and today might even be a little bit shorter because at least if it goes like the morning class did, which should be about the same amount of time, I won't really have enough time to go into a math lesson, but it probably won't take up the whole 2 hours today, unless there's lots of questions, which is totally fine if there is. So we'll go over that. So like I say, if you want to actually see the things that I'm talking about, you could just open the YouTube stream and then watch that part. Okay. Looks like we have 15 people in both places. So I don't know if some of those are the same people. Oh, actually, there's 18 on the YouTube stream. So anyways, however you want to do that. But I do want to note attendance since we're talking about class, showing up to class right now. Let me go over this part. So let me show you the modules. So I'm just in the Canvas modules here. That's the stuff I'm showing you. So I'm just kind of start at the top and kind of work our way to the bottom and give you lots of information along the way. And then you can, know what it is we're supposed to do. So the first thing is class meetings. Obviously, most of you found that page because you made it here to the class. So that's good. But I just want to make sure everyone sees this and that we go over it. So basically what happens is the school policy is that once you have missed 1/9, oh yeah, so there's a question here if I'll know that if you attended, that if you're in the YouTube live stream. Yeah, I'll go over that in a little bit. I'm going to take attendance here in a little bit, and we should be able to get everyone from both. So the way it works, school policy is that once you miss 1/9 of the school of the class meetings, then the teacher can drop you. So that's not very many, actually. So for this class, that's a little less than 2 meetings. I forget, it's something like 1.8 meetings or something like that, which basically means once you've missed the second class, I can drop you. I'm not a big fan of dropping students, but what's happened is, education has really changed in the last few years. Am I doing a screen share? No, I'm not sharing the screen, but if you're on I have the YouTube stream open, you can see the things I'm talking about if you click the YouTube link that's in here, that's in the class meetings page. If you click that, you'll be able to see the things that I'm talking about. Because I can't, the way Windows is set up, I can't stream a video to 2 different devices, at least not without a super complicated setup. So the visuals are going to the YouTube stream. Education's been changing the last few years, as we know, right? We all had to deal with COVID and that kind of stuff. So it's just different. Education is very different than it was. Like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, we would not have been taking the summer class online. We'd be in person on a campus, right? So things have changed. And both students and professors, we're learning what that means in this new setting. So one thing we saw especially in the spring, but also in the fall, is student attendance is just not what it used to be. Students are just not showing up to class meetings the way they used to. This was really bad in the spring, and I checked around. It wasn't just me. It was the whole math department was just saying, yeah, tons of students are just not showing up to class. And we're also seeing this somewhat campus-wide, but we're definitely seeing it in the math classes. And we can't really have this because poor attendance leads to lower pass rates, and I, as the professor, have to set up the class in a way that allows for high pass rates, right? I have to make decisions that make a lot of people pass, not just a few people. And so, and we get evaluated, like I'm getting evaluated in the fall and, all sorts of stuff. So both for student success, but also because it's part of, our responsibilities as a teacher, I have to make sure people are showing up to class. So I don't really love being super authoritarian in the classroom, but I'm going to have to do something to make changes to make sure that people are attending class, right, and showing up, and then we get those higher pass rates, and that's good for everyone. That's good for students. That's good for the college. It's good all around. So unfortunately, I am going to have to drop people that are not attending, right? So in other words, if you're taking this class, you have to take attendance seriously. Otherwise, I'm going to have to drop you. So Technically, I can drop you at 2 absences, but I probably won't do that. But once you start getting 3, 4 absences, then you might get dropped from the course, right? I've already had a few people today go, oh, I had a doctor's appointment. You know, there's something popped up and I had to go see the doctor today. You know, that stuff happens here and there. That's fine. So let me know if you're going to miss class. So then there's a record of it, which is good. But once you start accumulating 3, 4 more absences in the summer class, because we only meet, I think, 11 times, you know, once you have 3, 4 absences, that's a significant chunk of the course, 25, 33%, you know, you're getting up there. So I will wait a little bit before I take roll, but show up to class basically, because otherwise you're going to end up getting dropped. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that up front, because we're having to sort of make adjustments in our teaching to make sure that we're getting students to show up to class. So just be aware of that. Okay, so after class meetings is the syllabus. So I'll talk about the syllabus for a bit, and we'll talk about all sorts of stuff here. So as you can see, if you go into the, let me show you, if you go into the Canvas page that's marked syllabus, then you get to read a PDF version of the syllabus, and there's some information in there. Some of it's helpful, some of it's not terribly helpful to you, but you can click that. I do recommend, before you message me, just see if the information that you want is in either the syllabus or that introductory Canvas page, because a lot of your questions can get answered in there by just reading a little bit, right? And then, of course, if you still have questions, by all means, get a hold of me and we can go over stuff. So you're taking Math V46, which is currently called Applied Calculus. In the near future, this class is going to start being called Business Calculus, but that's not for like another year. But right now it's called Applied Calculus, and summer 2023. So I am Dr. Frederick. So this is my, let's see, this will be completing my 10th year at Ventura College. So I got my math degree at Sacramento State, went to Colorado State, got my PhD in math there, ended up in Washington State for a few years, and then I started at Ventura College in 2013. So I guess that makes this about 10 years that I've been teaching full-time at Ventura College. I've taught this course a ton of times. In fact, I'm actually the course lead for this, which means whenever there's paperwork or changes that need to be made to the applied calculus class, they go through me. So I'm very familiar with this class. I've taught it tons of times. I've taught it in the summer. I've taught it online. I've taught it in person. I've taught it hybrid. You know, very familiar with this class. There is a few changes. I made some changes that I think are better for students, but you know how it is. Anytime you change something, there's a little bit of a learning curve to it, namely the homework that we use. I kind of got fed up with Pearson products, you know, my math lab and stuff like that, just not really taking care of students very well. And so I've switched to a different product, and I used it last semester, but there's still little details that pop up here and there that I'm kind of learning how the XYZ homework works. So if you see something that looks like maybe I have something locked, but it should be open for you to work on, or a due date looks wrong or something like that, just let me know, because it's possible that I have a setting wrong somewhere or something. So feel free to let me know that. Okay, so yep, so that's a little bit of who I am. I've taught this class lots of times. I don't know how many times, but a lot. I teach it pretty regularly here at the college. My office is in the science building. It's 346. Since we're an online class, you probably won't have any reason to go to my office, especially since I won't really be there. But at least that's something that has to go in the syllabus, so that's there. My email is here. Make sure you spell it right. People do all sorts of weird things to my last name. They'll add an S on the end, or they add an SON on the end and stuff like that. And then, of course, I don't get your email. But email is actually not a great way to get a hold of me anyways. You're much better off messaging me through Canvas, the Canvas inbox. So let me show you. That's, let's see if I can pull this over. See over here on the Canvas page, we've got the inbox over here. So that's really your best bet for getting a hold of me, is to message me through Canvas, through the Canvas inbox. And when you go to send a message, I forget exactly how it looks, but my name should actually appear like in a little drop down when you do the to part. It'll put my name there, and then you can just send it directly to me. That's the best way to do it. You can send me an email if you like, but it's a little bit, I don't. It's just the email is so broken, right? I mean, even before I was department chair, we might get 20 to 30 emails a day, and a lot of it's junk. It's from publishers. It's from all sorts of different stuff that is not, it's just stuff that we should be ignoring. And when I get all those emails, it's easy to miss a student email. And I'm actually the incoming department chair, which means there's days where I might get 70 emails in a day, and it's very easy to miss a student email. But obviously I don't want to do that, because our number one priority at the school is helping students succeed in classes, right? Because if we're not helping students, then what are we doing, right? So the only messages that I get in Canvas inbox are student messages from students that are in my class. So if you message me through that's the first thing I look at when I sit down to, okay, I better make sure all my classes are up to date, see if there's things I can grade. The first thing I'm going to look at is the Canvas inbox. So, and then I'll probably get back to you sooner if it's in the Canvas inbox, and I won't accidentally miss it like I might when it's in the email. Sometimes I get student emails, they'll go directly to the trash folder, and I'll see it like 2 months later. I'll go, oh, this student tried to get a hold of me, but I never saw this email because it went to the trash folder. That stuff doesn't happen in Canvas. So if you just send me your messages through Canvas, I'm going to see them sooner. I'm going to respond to them sooner, and I won't accidentally miss them. Okay? So that's really the best place to do that. I've already been doing that the last few days, just kind of constantly responding to students in the Canvas messaging. So that's your best bet, is to do that, right over here on the left. Okay. Let's see. Juliana asked a question. I'm not sure what you mean about a teacher's option. I'm not sure what you were referring to. But if you want to expand on your question in chat there, I can try to answer your question. Okay. And let's see. Okay. Okay. So there's a. All right. So where was I? The syllabus. Oh, yeah, I see. So if you're sending a direct message in the email, it's not so much. But if you're sending it through Canvas, that's all those messages are. They're right from students to me. So yeah, in the Canvas, if you click that spot where it's the to, you should get a drop down, and like if you're I think it maybe says teachers, and if you click teachers, it'll give you like whatever teachers you're taking. So yeah, it makes it really easy to send me the messages through Canvas. It's better all around, because you're not going to misspell my name or anything like that. Like quite a few people try to change my name between forgetting the right number of E's or adding S's or SON. People do all sorts of weird stuff to my name. So Canvas is just less likely to make that happen. Okay, so that's the best way to get a hold of me. Let's see if we bring this back over. The testing I'll talk about in a few minutes. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Many of you have already read about that. We'll go over that. So listed in the syllabus is the course objectives and the student learning outcomes. You don't have to worry about those too much, because if you know what those things mean, you probably don't have to take this class, right? So that's just for the records. We have to put those things in here, but don't worry about those in the course description. Basically, if you're taking this class, you probably know why you're here. This is basically a business calculus class, what most schools call business calculus, but we previously called it applied calculus up till now, but we're actually changing the name as well. I think it'll take about a year to take effect, but in the future, this class will be called business calculus as well. Most of you in here are either economics majors or accounting majors or business administration majors. There's the occasional biology student that ends up taking this class, but most of you are probably somewhat business related if you're in here. Okay, so grades. So your typical grades are you're going to get your A, B, C, D, F for letter grades, and it's your typical 90, 80, 70, 60 cutoffs for those grades. So it's just kind of typical to what you're used to. Except, so there's a couple details here. So homework is 40% of your grade, exams are 40% of your grade, and then class participation is 20% of your grade. So, so we have this big and down here at the bottom. And to earn a grade of C or above, students must maintain 70% grades in homework and participation. Okay, so that means some people try to skip out and do like 50% of the homework. Don't do that, because there's a requirement here. You have to get 70% on the homework. So do the homework. The thing is, when people don't do much homework, they end up failing the exams, but they sort of figure that out too late. So they go, oh, well, like this is a thing we hear a lot. Well, I took this class before. I took it last semester and failed it, so I don't really have to do the homework because I already know it. But, if you think about it, that doesn't make a lot of sense. If you failed the class, then obviously you don't really know it, right? So in order to learn it, you have to do the homework. As you should kind of trust your teacher when we tell you, like, I designed this course, and I've seen hundreds and hundreds of students. I guess probably not 1,000 students, but like many hundreds of students I've seen go through this course. Like, I know what works for students and what doesn't. And students who don't do homework don't pass this class, partly because it's part of the grade, but also because if you don't do homework, then you fail the exams. And then it's just too late to kind of turn it around at that point. So just make sure you're doing the homework, right? If you're coming into this class and you're like, I'm going to take this class seriously, I'm going to do the work, I'm going to do the homework, I'm going to come to class, you're probably going to do fine, right? You might not get an A, but you'll probably be able to pass the class. Usually where things go sideways is when people try to pass the class and go, well, I'm only going to do 30% of the homework. That's not going to work, right? That just plan on doing the homework. Students who generally take the class seriously, their homework is like up in the 90s, right? Because if you go to mark a problem and you get it wrong, it just has you do it, like it gives you a different version of the problem. And you can just keep working different versions until you learn it, and then you get the point, right? So, I have some students that will finish the class with 100%. They'll get every single homework point for the whole semester. Now, that's not absolutely necessary, but like I say, most students who take the class seriously, that final grade's going to be, 93, somewhere between 92 and 97%, somewhere in there is pretty frequent for students that are taking the class seriously. That's what you want, right? Because in reality, most people's exam grades are lower than their homework grades. And, so you want that homework grade to pull your exam scores up so that you end up with a passing score when you're done. So, just take that seriously. Class participation. So I will be taking roll, but I don't, we're not allowed to give points for roll call, but what we are allowed to do is give some kind of problem in class, and the people who work on that, then we can give you class participation. So it's close to being attendance points, but not exactly, right? And again, I'm having to make changes to the teaching because what we're seeing is students not show up to class. So I have to be making changes to ensure that I'm fixing that, right? That I'm taking care of that class participation. So if you're not participating in class, it probably means you're not showing up to class, which probably means you're going to get dropped from the course anyways. So just make sure you're doing the homework, make sure you're preparing for the exams, and things will be fine. Let's see, there's a question here. Do you have a rough estimate for how much time we should expect to spend on homework each week? Okay, that's a great question. So, you probably are not going to like my answer to this. It depends, right? Some of you are coming in with really, really solid algebra skills, and maybe some of you have even already taken like a calculus class in college or something. In that case, a person is going to have to do a lot less work than someone who, say, hasn't taken math for 10 years, right? So it's really hard to say as far as like how much time it's going to that you can expect. I would say in general, you should probably expect to spend about 2 to 4 hours a day on this class. I know that sounds like a lot, but what you want to realize is you're taking a class at triple speed, right? You're taking a class that we normally teach in 18 weeks, and you're taking it in 6. And I know I just took a class, right? In the first 4-week session, I just took a film class, and that class was like, we watched movies and then like analyzed movies, and we learned about different aspects of movie making. And that class took, I would say on average 2.5 to 3 hours a day. And that was a film class. And that, people usually don't find film classes as challenging as, say, a math class. So, summer's no joke. It's a serious thing you're getting into. I know sometimes we hear from students that, oh, well, I heard that you take it easy on people in the summer. And the reality is we can't do that. We have agreements with the UCs and the CSUs that they accept our transfers, and they won't do that if we just start letting people through and not teaching classes properly. So in order to protect the transferability, which is why all of you are in here, we have to make sure that we are in fact teaching the classes in the way that the university would teach them, right? So just make sure. So Derwin, sorry, I don't have a better answer for you. It really depends on each individual. Some of you, if you're really strong at math, you might get away with 2 hours a day. Some of you might need 4 hours a day. But you are going to, I would say most of you in this room are going to spend between 2 and 4 hours, probably 5 days a week, getting this material figured out. And it'll vary too. Some sections are pretty easy, and you'll go through the homework and be like, oh, great, I have all this time today. And then the next day, maybe the section is really, really hard, and you're just spending forever, right? So there are some sections like derivatives of the exponential, not very tricky for most people. And then when we get to integration by parts, people just feel like they just drove into a wall or something. They're like, I can't make progress on this. So it just kind of depends. But yeah, I'm glad you asked, because you do want to make sure you're taking it seriously. Let's see. There's another question here. Is there an option to save and exit on the homework if we cannot complete it in one sitting? Yes, there absolutely is. I'm going to show you the homework in a little bit. And I'll go over that homework in a bit. Yeah, but that's a good question. Yeah, you don't have to sit down and do it all in one sitting. Okay, so that's your grade. So just basically make sure you have the right attitude. Attitude is so important in school, in life in general, right? But in school as well. If you come in with the attitude that you're going to do the work, then you'll probably be successful. If you're trying to figure out how to do, sometimes students try to go, what's the minimum amount of work I can do and get a 70.0? That's usually not a good strategy. Those students end up falling a little bit short, and then now you have a D, right? So just think about the mental attitude that you have for this class, and if you adopt the right mental attitude, you'll probably be good. Okay, let's talk about homework. So some homework assignments are done in Canvas, so there will be a few Canvas assignments. There's a few discussions, there's a few quizzes, which will end up going into homework, stuff like that. But the majority of your homework is going to be done in XYZ homework, right? And this brings up a point. I've had a few questions, and I'm not 100% sure. I guess one person did send me a screenshot. By the way, screenshots are great. If you're going to send me a question, a lot of times I would say students don't send enough details with their question, and I'm not really sure what they're talking about. But if you send me a screenshot either of the homework problem you're working on, or you send me a screenshot of, like, I've had some people confused about Canvas, send me a screenshot of what you're talking about, and then I can go, oh, I know what you're talking about. Some people were concerned about the little lock. There's like a padlock symbol. What that means is that I've disabled the grade book. And the reason for that is much of your grade happens outside of Canvas. And so if the grade book is turned on, people will think they're getting a certain grade, but your homework is not in Canvas. It's an XYZ homework. And your exams are not in Canvas. So people will think because they've done a couple Canvas assignments, they'll go, well, it says I have a B, even though they know they didn't do any homework and like maybe failed the test. They'll say, well, Canvas says I have a B. So I just disable Canvas so there's no confusion about the grade book, right? You should be able to have a pretty good, the grade is pretty easy to calculate. You should be able to kind of know if you've done, If your homework is in the 90s and your exams are in the 80s and you're showing up to class, then your homework, your grade is probably borderline AB, something like that, right? It's not super complicated. In fact, even if you wanted to calculate it exactly, if you're in this class, you should have the algebra skills to calculate that grade. So anyway, so yeah, if you're going to send me something, screenshot or detailed explanations of what you're asking are very helpful. And if we go to homework, let's see, is this still open for me? Is it still logged? Did it log me out? No, we're good. Okay, so let's go to homework here. Let's see, that was syllabus, homework. Okay, so I have directions here for the homework. This morning when I looked, I think about 10 of you had done this. I saw there were about 10 students who had signed up for this. Hold on, let me get a drink here. Sorry, that was weird. I hadn't touched the bottle in like an hour, and when I opened it, it still sort of exploded on me. Anyway, so about 10 of you had already done this. The rest of you want to work on that. So what you'll do, there's a link here for xyzhomework.com. So you're going to click that. And you see when you click it, you're going to get this screen and see it says instructor sign up and student sign up. It should be obvious which one you're going to pick, right? Because you're a student, you're not the instructor. So you'll sign up, you'll click this, and then you'll sign up for the class. You know, it's like any time you have to do something online, you create an account and you go do all that kind of stuff. And then you're going to log in using your credentials, and then at some point it's going to ask for your course ID, and that's right here. So 37735, that's how it knows to put you in the class that I created, right, or that I'm using for the course. So it's going to put you in, and then you're enrolled and ready to go. Now, the way these classes start, this used to be different like 10 years ago, and it was a huge problem. Now what happens when you sign up for the online homework, they give you 15 days. Some places give you 14 days, but they give you a free period at the beginning, I mean. And that's because people are trying to get their licenses from the bookstore, and people are trying to, you know, I don't get paid till Friday and that kind of stuff. So now they give you 15 days where you can use the software. So that means without even going to the bookstore, some people in the class are already doing the homework. They're already got stuff pulled up, and they're actually, I don't know if anyone started the homework yet, but about 10 people have already created their accounts, and they're in there ready to go. That's what you want. So, you know, I'll still have students come to me and say, oh, I didn't sign up because I don't get paid till Friday, or this, like, there's no reason. There is nothing stopping you from signing up and starting the homework. Now, in about 2 weeks, they will cut you off and say, okay, we need our money now. So you can you can buy the license directly, or you can go through the bookstore to get your book and homework license through the bookstore. So if you just go to the bookstore, show them the class you're in, then they'll get you your license for the class. And then when the 15-day free trial ends, that's okay. You already have your license. You put it in there, and then you just finish the course out. So you'll be good to go at that point, okay? So at some point, you will have to contact the bookstore. I forget. This is all new, but you might be able to just pay directly at some point. It might let you do it directly. To do that. So that's sort of the process you're going to do. But everyone can start working on homework tonight or today if you wanted to, right when class ends, or those of you who already signed up, as you're ready to go right when class ends, the rest of you can sort of get started on it. Get yourself signed up, and then boom, right into doing homework, and you're good to go. Okay? Let me show you how this works. So this class is Brzezinski Applied Calculus, and you will have, this is what the book looks like. Right, so you'll have the book there. Yeah, so this one I believe comes with the paper book, and then you also get the ebook when you get the license through the bookstore. So you get that. So yeah, I guess you'd want to go through the bookstore then, because then you get the paperback book. It's actually pretty cheap. That's one of the reasons I chose XYZ Homework. It's significantly cheaper than like Pearson used to be, and Pearson had all sorts of problems. Where they were messing up students' accounts, and then they didn't really care about getting it fixed for the students. So I said, forget this. So I moved over to this product. It's cheaper for students in general, and it's a good product. Like, you'll get the information that you need. Okay. So you can see there's a calendar here. Pay attention to that, because like I mentioned, in the summer we move fast. I mean, we're doing what, 6 chapters, and this is a 6-week class. So you're doing about a chapter a week. I held it off a little bit in the beginning. Notice your first chapter is not due till next week, but that's because I know it's always weird where people are getting situated in the beginning. But we're doing about a chapter a week. That's fast. So this calendar helps you figure out when things are due. Okay, now you don't want to get behind in the summer, because there's just no time to catch up, right? If you get behind 1 or 2 assignments, sure, you might catch up. But if all of a sudden you're half a chapter behind or a full chapter behind, the new stuff just keeps coming. So it's very difficult to catch up. So please try to plan your life around staying current with this material so that you don't get behind. If you feel like you're getting behind, the Ventura College Tutoring Center is open and ready to help you. There are people literally right now in there waiting to help people who show up. I had one student report that they're always changing the rules now about how their setup is, but I had one student in my morning class report that you can still do Zoom sessions with the tutors. So, it's probably best to go there in person if you can, but if you can't, set up some Zoom sessions with a tutor and see if you can get some help. But they're very helpful. It doesn't cost you anything. The tutors are over there ready to go. In fact, when you go to the tutoring center, you're supposed to sign in with your 900 number, and it doesn't cost you anything. The reason they do that is so that they can track how many hours they're helping students, because then for the next semester they can say, hey, we helped this many more students. We need to hire more tutors for next semester. That's really all the tracking is about. But what they do is at the end of the semester, they send us reports so we can see how much time our students spent in there. And I can tell you, time spent in the tutoring center is a great predictor of students' grades. I mean, you could almost erase the rest of their grades and just show me how much time students spent in the tutoring center, and I could guess their grades. My students that go in there a lot do very well. My students that don't go in there very much or at all don't do as well, right? You can be successful in this course and never go to the tutoring center, but the people who go in there tend to outscore the students who don't. So not a bad idea, especially if you're a little, this is a fast class, and it's calculus. It's business calculus. So it's not as, what's the word? It's not as complex maybe as the engineering calculus, but it's still not easy. Like there's some things that are confusing and tricky in this course. So going and getting that help from the tutoring center can be very helpful. Also, as I'll show you in a little bit, I set up a discussion forum so that people can state if they want to be in either an online study group or an in-person study group. I don't set those up. That's up to you to set up, because it's all personal, right? Maybe you don't want to meet people in person because you're more private, or maybe you don't want to be in a group where everyone's sharing their phone number or whatever. That's totally up to you. It's totally up to like whatever your personal preferences are, but people are going to state in there. That's one of the things you address is, do you want to be part of an online tutoring group? Do you want to be part of an in-person tutoring group? And then you can all set those groups up if you want, according to what you're comfortable with. Okay, so that's up to you, but those are helpful. I don't always have students in my class that set up study groups, but I can tell you the ones that set up study groups tend to do very well. Those students tend to ace tests because they're very prepared. They're doing the homework, they're showing up in a group, talking about it. When they get stuck, they go to the tutoring center, then they come back to the group, everyone helps each other, and then those students usually get A's on the tests. So it's a good idea. I recommend it if you're able to work something out like that. Let's see, there's a question here. Where can we access the online tutoring? So let's look. That's a great question. So for anything VC related, you can just come to the main web page, and right here on the search, let's just put in tutoring center. And it takes us here. Our first link is for the tutoring center, so I'll click that. And what do we have here? Let's see. So the tutoring center, so it's on the first floor of the LRC. It's behind the stairs. Some people miss it, and they go, I couldn't find it. There's a stairway, and if you have to look behind the stairs in order to see the tutoring center. But if you look where I did, you can see they have tons of hours that they're open. Let's see, for math. Lots of hours for all levels of math. So like 8:30 to 6:30, 8:30 to 6:30, 8:30 to 5. So you can see lots of hours here, lots of flexibility. The question was about online. Let's see. Let's see. So it says students seeking assistance online must be enrolled in the class in which they receive tutoring. Okay, that's fine because you'll be in this class. So it says check in with the receptionist on Zoom. So let's see. There must be a link somewhere here. Let's see. Online tutoring. Okay, so over on the right, there's a button for the online tutoring. So if I click that, then it looks like there's some instructions here. So either on a laptop, a tablet, or a phone. I assume a desktop computer would be fine. They have a Zoom link here. And then you're basically just going to use the Zoom link. So it looks like the answer to the question of how to use the online tutoring. So you'll go to VC, look up tutoring, click the link, and then come over here to where it says online tutoring on the right, and then you'll be good to go. Okay, highly recommend it. Here's one thing I'll tell you about the tutors. Most of them have not taken this class. Most of them have taken the engineering calculus. So the actual math, they're going to know at a very high level. They might get a little confused with some of the business concepts if they haven't done this. So when we talk about revenue functions and profit functions and then marginal cost and stuff like that, it might take them a few minutes to figure that out, but they'll get it, right? They'll be fine. But as far as the majority of the stuff you're doing in this class, finding derivatives, finding integrals, first derivative test, second derivative test, all limits, all that kind of stuff, those tutors are going to know that stuff inside and out. So just be patient with them. If a problem is involving like a business calculus problem, they try to figure out what it means. But the calculus, they're aces at it. So that will definitely be of help to you. Okay, hopefully that answered the question about the online tutoring part. Let's see, where was I? think I was right. So tutoring is there and available for you. So you've got your calendar. Make sure you're watching those due dates. You can do some assignments late in this class. In XYZ, they use what's called late passes, and I've given you a bunch. I've given you like 20 late passes. Now, the late passes only cover a few days, so if you're a week late, you might have to use 2 or 3 late passes to do one assignment. If you run out of late passes, just ask, and I can give you some more. Okay, but again, it's not good to get behind in this class because it's very rare that students are able to catch up. But you do have some late passes if you need them. So work through these first few, learning how to use the ebook, learning how to use the entry guide, and then you'll get into the actual chapter stuff. So I want to show you a couple things because, you know, I know how it is because it's like this for me too. We've all we're so used to looking at internet pages that our brain just starts to like ignore certain parts where there's like usually ads. Our brain doesn't even look over there, right? So sometimes students miss some really valuable tools that are here in the homework. So let's say I click 1.1 and it takes me in here. I'm going to do the teacher preview and see how there's down here, there's some help. Now there's different help for different problems, but there's almost always a video. Oops, I'm not even listening to anything right now. There's almost always a video, and there's usually a link to the ebook. Sometimes there also is a problem worked out. So you can, it'll say, I wonder if there's any in here. It'll say, maybe that's just the other class where it says it. But sometimes it'll say like written example or something, and it'll have like an example written out for you. But watch, if I click video here, it shows me a video. And we've got Aaron giving us a video here. This is, this guy that they hired. I'm going to mute him just so we don't listen to him explaining this. But you can see he's covering a problem here, talking about functions, and it's in the context of a business problem. And if for some reason you don't like Aaron's version, then Stephanie has a version over here. So you can watch this person, Stephanie, do the same problem, but just a little bit different explanation. So some people prefer one person over another. And then sometimes, here's CJ. Okay, so in this case, you have 3 people you can choose from to watch the video of the same problem. Sometimes it's kind of not showing up. I'm a little surprised. My morning class, there's always they have one video if you want to watch it in Spanish, but apparently these don't all have the Spanish option. But anyways, you have 3 different versions of the videos that you can watch, depending on which person you want to hear explain it. Here is so if you click the ebook, it's going to open the book to the page that is relevant to that problem, right? So it's not like you have to look through the whole book. It says, no, this is the part that pertains to the problem you're working on. And you might need to look over a couple pages, but it's not like you have to look through the whole book, right? It's putting you approximately where you need to be in the book. Like this kind of looks like that problem they were working on, right? So those are very helpful when you're trying to figure out how to do these types of problems. Let's see. There's a question here. Will all the homework be unlocked or as we work through the chapters? So believe the way I have it set up is that all the homework is open to you now, but then there's different due dates. So chapter 1, I think, is due early next week. Chapter 2 is due late next week. But you could literally like open it all, do it all now. That was one thing, that film class I took that just finished up was great. But that was kind of frustrating, was sometimes I would finish up a module and then I would have to wait to work ahead. But each module usually only covered 2 to 3 days. And so I was like, well, I kind of wish you would open up the module so that I could like work on the next stuff, because maybe I'm going out of town. Like one weekend we went to Anaheim and did some Angels games. It's like it was hard for me to do the homework. So I have it all opened up so that way if you need to work ahead, you can. Like if oh, my family's all going somewhere for 4th of July, it's going to be hard for me to do homework. Well, you can do it ahead of time, right? So you have a little bit of flexibility there when you start the assignments. But the due dates are sort of the due dates. So, and in general, just don't procrastinate. That's one thing we're seeing more and more is people tend to wait until a due date to start an assignment. That's just a bad life habit. Like, don't wait until something's due to do it. That usually not only is a very stressful way to do things, but it also results in poor work, right? It's like if you're writing an essay for an English class and you try to write the whole thing in one evening, it's just not going to be very good, right? That's why we're supposed to do drafts. Like the way you're supposed to do an essay, say you write it one day and you work on it and you go, okay, that's not bad. And then you come back the next day and you read it and you're like, why did I think this was good? This is terrible. So then you go through and you rewrite it and it's now significantly better, right? And then you walk away for a day and then you come back and you go, oh, I found a few more things I want to change. And by that point you have a really good essay, right? But you can't do that in one night because you don't have that time for it to become fresh again. So that's why if you do an essay in one night, it's not going to be very good. It's the same thing with math. If you try to do stuff too much at the last minute, stuff might come up. Maybe your internet goes down, your computer breaks, then you're having a hard time with that. But also, your brain is not designed to learn a lot of math in a short period of time. You want to treat this class like a marathon where you're learning a lot of stuff over a long period of time. It's like same with, say, an instrument. If any of you have ever learned an instrument, if, say, you take two people and one just spends 7 hours on Sunday practicing and the other person spends 1 hour a day practicing, they've spent the same amount of time, but the person who practices 1 hour a day will get better faster than the person who just plays 7 hours on Sunday, right? Math's the same way because of the way your brain forms neurons and learns new things. It's better to do a little bit every day than it is to do a lot all at once. That's why some students, you might hear, this is the thing we hear a lot from students, is they'll say, well, I was able to do it the other day. I spent all Sunday doing it and I could do these problems, but now I don't remember how to do it. It's because your brain is not a muscle, it's an organ, right? But it's like a muscle in that it gets fatigued, it gets tired. Like you wouldn't do bench press that way, right? You wouldn't say, well, I want to get good at bench pressing, so I'm just going to go in and spend 24 hours straight bench pressing. That's not really going to work to get good at bench press, right? It's the same with your brain. Your brain it gets tired, it gets worn out. You want to do like short periods, the same way you would do bench press. You would do bench press maybe 4 times a week, right? Not just once a week for 4 times as long, right? It's the same idea with math. So just keep that in mind, and don't procrastinate till the due dates. Like I say, it's less stressful and you'll actually be better at it. And then keep in mind there's the videos and there's the ebook that's available to you. And just watch those due dates. So let's see. There's the calendar right here. You can click on the calendar. It shows you when stuff is due, and you can change this. So there's an option. I can make it do the whole 6 weeks. Now it's got the calendars the whole 6 weeks for me, so I can see exactly when everything is due. It's all set. But yeah, everything should be open for you as of now. I think that's everything I wanted to show you. On the homework, students seem to think it worked pretty well last semester when we used it. I didn't use it for this class last semester. We used it for trigonometry, but students thought it was good. There was way less problems than we had when we were using Pearson. So overall, I think it's good. But I might have a setting wrong or something like that. So like I say, just give me a heads up if you think something's not right in there. Okay, any questions on the homework? No, we're good. Okay, then let's move ahead. Where are we with things? Okay, so let's do it this way. Okay, before I talk about exams, I think now is a good time for me to take roll. So let me first see about who's in Zoom, and then I'm going to look at who's on YouTube. So let me see if we got, looks like most people have first and last names. That's great. Okay, so give me a second here. Okay, so for the 13 people that are in, let's see, Did I miss somebody? Somebody pop in. Oh, I'm the 13th person. Okay, that was silly. Okay, so on the homework you do get multiple attempts. It'll keep giving you if you get it wrong, it'll give you a different version of the problem, and you can keep doing that. Like I think it's set, it'll do that 99 times for you, where it keeps giving you different versions of the problem until you get it right. Okay, let's see. Let's jump over to YouTube now. Okay, so if you are in I got everyone who's in Zoom. So if you are just on the YouTube stream, if you are not in Zoom, if in chat, if you could just tell me your first name and the first letter of your last name, because YouTube's a little less private, so you don't have to put your whole last name if you don't want. But if you could tell me your first name followed by first letter of your last name. So like for me, I'd put Topher F, right? That way you don't have to like put your stuff out there. Okay, let's see. Kyle M. Let's see. Wendy, is that maybe talk to me after class? I'm not if that's the name that you're registered under at VC, then the first names aren't matching. So maybe just check with me after class, and we'll just double check that you're enrolled. And then what do we have? Okay. Okay, so, and it's possible I missed somebody, but the names that I don't have are Mary A, Jennifer D, Tess H, Jocelyn O, Isabella R, and I thought I saw this name earlier. Yep, this person's here. Juliana, got you here. Oh, sorry. Oh, that is strange. Wendy, I just see your name. It's not alphabetical for some reason. Okay, but I got you, Wendy. You're for some reason you're at the very last place. I think it didn't capitalize your name for some reason. I think maybe that's why. But I got you, Wendy. You're good. Let's see. Okay, so those names I just mentioned will now be absent. and potentially dropped. There's a thing called census where we have to drop people who haven't attended. And for summer classes, census is tomorrow. So if you haven't attended today, I end up having to drop you. So make sure that if you were here that I got you. Yeah, okay. I think we're good. Okay, so like I say, I don't really love having to take roll. As you could see, that was like a whole big thing we just had to do. But it's serious because it's kind of becoming a problem in classes where students aren't showing up. So we have to crack down on attendance. Excuse me, unfortunately. Okay, let's move on to exams. So I just want to point out, just because some people think that maybe we changed the rules on them, but if you look at the schedule, so summer schedule for Ventura Math, if you go down to this class and you click on it, most people don't click on the details, but it's a good idea to do that. So it says, what happened here? Am I in the wrong semester? What happened? Oh yeah, okay. So it mentions in here, we use an online homework platform as well as having tests administered on campus in weeks 3 and 6. I'm only pointing that out because I know I'm going to get some emails where people say, "Hey, I didn't know there were supposed to be tests," but I just want everyone to understand it was in the notes of the course. So in the future, when you take a course, you might just click those notes and read them just to make sure it's what you know, that it fits your stuff. We're having a big problem. This was a terrible problem over COVID. We've kind of learned to deal with it. Is that we were just having huge problems with people cheating in math classes. And it really isn't fair, right? You have people that are like being honest and working hard and getting a B, and then you have people that are just cheating using apps to do their homework and stuff like that, and then they're getting an A without actually putting in any work. It's really not fair to the people who actually are doing the work. Plus, you're not learning anything. So like, what's the point, right? So this is in the math department. This is one of the ways, since we don't have any like proctoring programs. The school has not provided us with proctoring programs. So the workaround for most of our advanced classes in the mathematics department, one of the ways we're dealing with this is by having people take proctored tests in the testing center. Then we can justify that we were responsible in the way we were teaching this class. It was reasonable to students where, like I say, a hardworking student who learned the material gets a B, but someone who cheats gets an A. Also, we're seeing more and more, especially if it's out of state, colleges are not wanting to let classes transfer that have unproctored math tests, right? So in other words, you would have to take it over when you transfer to some schools anyways. We don't want that. We want, when you take the class at our college, that it transfers and you don't have to take it again, right? That's not, if you have to take it again, we're not really serving anybody. So we're having to crack down on that, and you'll have to take 2 tests in the testing center over that 6 weeks. And then we can, I can look someone in the face and say, yes, this person actually passed a test. They legitimately passed a test under the proctored situation. This person knows calculus, right? And then class transfers and all that kind of stuff. So what that means is you'll want to meet up with the testing center, make your appointments. You will take it. Technically you can take the test early if you want, but we move so fast, it's hard to take them early in this class because then you probably haven't learned all the material if you're taking it early. But if you had to, you could take the test early, but you can't take it late, right? So you'll take 1 exam in the testing center the week of July 4th. So the July 3rd through July 7th, you'll have an appointment in there. You cannot use class notes on the exams, but if you know the problems, if you know what you're doing, you shouldn't really need them. This is not a class where we're going to have a ton of like weird formulas. We're not going to have like formulas for annuities or anything like that. The other stuff that's like consumer surplus and marginal cost and stuff like that, you should just know what that is. They're not super complicated, but they're stuff that you're gonna have to know what they mean anyways when you take your economics class or your accounting class. But we don't have like really really complicated formulas that you would want to memorize, and you don't have to do that. And then you'll have an exam in week 6, which is the 28th. The 28th is that should be the last day that the testing center is open, that the class still takes place. Because I think the class technically ends on the 30th, right? Yeah, the class technically ends on the 30th, but you can't take a test on the 30th or the 29th. That's a Saturday and a Sunday. So basically, the last day you can take a test in the testing center is the 28th. If you do not have your test taken by then, it will be a 0. So you don't want a 0 on the test, right? So I've got the link for you here to go right to the Ventura College Testing Center webpage. And you can go, you can also just find it by looking, like the way we looked up the tutoring center a little while ago. You can just look up the testing center the same way. But if I click this, it opens the testing center. This is what it looks like. If you know the school, it's kind of over in the vicinity of the Performing Arts Center, like the theater. It's kind of near there. It's in that part. It's on what some people consider the backside of school. It's over by Loma Vista. It's off of Loma Vista. It's a smaller parking lot. So this is what the building looks like. And you can see they have expanded hours. They have quite a few hours, but you have to make an appointment. Okay, so you have to have an appointment. There's a couple things you want to make sure this goes right. You have to have an appointment set up ahead of time. You have to bring a photo ID, because otherwise, people just send like their engineer sister in to take the test for them or something, right? So you have to have a photo ID. Driver's license is fine. And then, or if you have like a school ID, or there's different, as long as it's some kind of government issued photo ID, you're good to go. So you've got your appointment, your photo ID, and then you're probably going to want a calculator, right, of some sort. A graphing calculator is helpful, but that's up to you. That's the only things you can bring into the testing center, and you probably want all of that, right? You want your appointment, you want your calculator, and then what was number 2? I forget. So you want to make sure that's all good to go. So here's the hours. They have a phone number and an email, but a lot of times it's hard to get a hold of him, because he's actually like helping people in the center, like getting them set up for their tests and stuff. So he can't always like answer the phone. So if you go over here on the right, there's 2 things you want to look at. There's the student guide for testing, and then there's the student request form. So if you click the student guide for testing, it tells you all sorts of stuff like, make sure you bring your required ID, a photo ID, all that kind of stuff. And then if you click the student request form, you can give your information and you can request an appointment time. Okay, so, go through all that and get your appointment set up. This is one of those things, again, about procrastinating. Some people will wait, and then you may not be able to get an appointment. There's only so many appointments, and if you wait too long, then they get booked in there. So as you'll see, I have it throughout Canvas. Set up your appointments now for both tests. Set up your appointment for week 3. Set up your appointment for week 6, and then you're all good to go. Because if you don't have it taken by the 28th, it's going to be a 0 in the grade book. And I don't want to give you a 0, and you don't want to get a 0. So just set up those appointments, know when they are, make sure you're ready to show up to them, and then hopefully you're good to go. Also, don't do it at the last minute. Like you can't request a time that's like, oh, can I take it in an hour? They say they want at least 2 working days to make sure they, because then they can take care of it properly. And try not to be late, because you don't. And if you're late 45 minutes, that doesn't mean you get an extra 45 minutes on the other end, because that's someone else's appointment. Oh, let's see. I'm going to mute here. Okay, I just muted because it sounded kind of like chaos. If you have a question about this, go ahead, throw it in chat. But I couldn't really understand if someone was trying to ask a question. And I know there's a few questions. I'll catch up on these in just a minute. The exam time you'll have is 2 hours to take the exam. And let me go back to where the testing was, exams. So there is a practice test, so I'll go over that in a minute. So the first test that you take is actually going to be multiple choice. That doesn't mean it's easy. You still want to prepare for it. Sometimes people think multiple choice means it's going to be easy, and then they end up getting like a 25% on it. So take the test seriously. But the second test will not be multiple choice. That will all be written out, long form, partial credit, all that kind of stuff. So, oh, right. And as far as the appointment, so you can take the test anytime that week. So anytime, really anytime before 7/7 that you can take the test, go ahead and do it. It can be, I mean, try not to do it during class if we meet, but, you know, take it in the morning, take it in the night, whatever works for you to get that test taken on whatever day. You know, if there's a certain day where you don't have to worry about kids at a certain time and you don't have a job to worry about, where you don't have a shift that day or whatever, take it on that day, whatever works for you during that week. And the same here for week 6, whatever day and time works for you. Again, try not to do it during class, but, you know, if you have to do it during class, it's better than getting a 0. So, but you'll have a lot more flexibility if you try to sign it up for that. Yeah, I'll give you the information on the Scantron as we get closer to that time. I haven't had a chance to go over to the bookstore and see what Scantrons they have in there. So I want to try to use a Scantron that they have in the bookstore. That way it's easy for you to get a hold of them. But I haven't had a chance to get over there yet. So I will definitely let you know about that as it gets closer. So let's see. Let me. So no notes on the exam. There is a practice test. So if you go, let's see. Let's go here. If I go to modules, if you go down, I have at some point on here. Where did it go? I think it's here. Exam 1 preparation. So at the end of chapter 2, you have a discussion where you're going to discuss what you're doing to get ready for the test. And down here, you can see there's a link for practice exam 1. So that's an exam that is similar, not exactly the same, but similar to the test that you'll take. So you can get an idea of types of problems you might run across. So that's your practice exam. I do not give solutions to the practice exam. That's up to you all to work together on. So that's a great thing to work together. You can take the practice exam to the tutoring center, and you can get help from the tutors. That's great. You can take your practice exam to a study group, and you can all work on it together. That's great. And you can kind of see how things work, right? So if you're not sure, that's kind of an indication you might not be ready to take the test, right? But you should be pretty solid on the answers, especially if you're working with other people or getting help from the tutors. You should be pretty good. So feel free to use that practice exam however you want. Work together on it, work with tutors, whatever works for you. Okay. Right. Yep. So that's that question. As far as what materials are allowed during the test, just the calculator and something to write with. Okay, good. I think I answered all those questions. Let's see if there's one here. Oh, we got a person. Let's see. Yep, Trey, I got you. You're good. You're good. Okay. My phone's about to die. Okay, got my phone charging there. When is the first homework assignment due? So off the top of my head, I don't know. I think they're due early next week, but once you sign up for the homework, that calendar will be there, and it's going to tell you all about like when all those homework assignments are due. So I think it's early next week. But remember, the way I have it set up, a whole chapter is due at once. So it's not like you want to start it right at the end. You want to be working on it like now to get ready for that first chunk of assignments that are due, right? You want to sort of get ready for that. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so let's see. So you need to so I'm just reading here. You need to make an appointment with the VC Testing Center well in advance. Now is a good time to make that appointment. They do get booked up. In the last, even just in the spring, they had a huge spike in the number of people using that testing center. I used to be their number one person who would send students there. Now I'm like 5th or 6th, which means there's a lot of teachers using it like way more than even me. So he went from having like in a given month something like 100 appointments, and he was getting to where he was having like 400 or 500 appointments in a month. So people are just using that testing center like crazy. So please reserve your time now, so that you don't end up in a bad spot. Right. So I think we got everything there on exams. And like I say, I'll follow up with the exact Scantron information and stuff like that. Contacting me, I think I talked about this. If you really need to, for sure, send me an email. That's fine. But really, it's in your best interest to send me a message through Canvas, because those I prioritize, because those I know are from my active students. They're from students who are in my class. Those come first because, you might need that question answered for you to progress in the class. So that should come before some other business at the college where someone sends me an email, right? So that's really the best way to do it. Okay, good question from Ashley here. Will we be learning the chapters in class meetings, or will mostly be from the book? So that's a great question. The answer is kind of like both. So as you know, we will be meeting about 4 hours a week for this class, but with the 2 Zoom meetings that we do on Tuesday and Thursday, because we'll actually meet for about 2 hours. But if you think about it, if this was a normal on-ground class in a regular semester, we also would meet for 4 hours a week, but we'd do it for 18 weeks. We're doing it for 6. So what that means is I'm going to show you the stuff in class that I think is the stuff that students find most confusing and have the most trouble with, which sometimes is the conceptual stuff. Sometimes it's just the problems that are hardest for students. Excuse me. So I'm going to prioritize in class the things that students struggle with the most, that I find students have the hardest time with, but the rest of it you will learn from in the modules. So if you go to the modules here, you can see the first one is kind of introductory, but once you get through that, you'll see there's videos for you. Some of the videos are by me, right? As a guy looking a little bit younger than I look in the live version, but there's me. I think I did that like a year ago. So you'll see some of these videos are by me, some of these videos are not by me, right? So you can watch the videos and you'll learn about these, whatever particular topic it is there. And the modules don't line up exactly with homework assignments, but they're pretty close. Like when you look at homeworks, you'll see early on we talk about functions, and these are the concepts we're talking about. They don't always match up perfectly, like they might be off by like one section or something like that, but they're pretty close, right? This is the order you're going to do things. So for algebra and composition with functions, if we click that, you can see, yep, here's a video where I talk about it. And then sometimes I add in another video where if you think you want more of an explanation, you can do it. So Chemistry Tutor has really good videos, right? So I threw a Chemistry Tutor in there. It's not he's just called Chemistry Tutor on YouTube, but he does math stuff as well, and his explanations are very good. And then some of you may have seen, this is Professor Leonard. I think he's a teacher. I think he's actually stopped making YouTube videos, but he has really, really like in-depth detailed stuff. Like you'll see some of his videos are like 2 hours. So if you really just want to watch a teacher going through like in just high detail every single step, you can watch the Professor Leonard video. If you want, most of my videos are a little bit shorter and like overviews of the information. So it kind of depends. Some students will watch my video and go, oh, I get it. That's enough. Some students go, I want to see like 3 or 4 more examples in detail. Then you can watch Chemistry Tutor or Professor Leonard. So, it's kind of to whatever level you feel like you need for that particular topic. Some people are going to see topics and go, oh no, just this first video was enough. I get it. And then some people are like, I need to see more. And then you can watch more. So it's a little bit up to you. And then, like I say, also I'll cover certain topics in class that you won't see in these videos. So it's not like you can say, I'm going to skip class and just watch the videos, because you'll miss stuff that I talk about in class. You won't get that in the videos. Also, you can't just watch the stuff I do in class, because if you think about it, we're only meeting 33% as much as we would. So that's 67% that we'd be missing, right? So that's where these videos come in handy. So you want to make sure that you are both watching the videos in the modules and also coming to class, right? And like I say, these really long ones, if you feel like you were able to get the homework done and you didn't need it, then you don't have to watch the full Professor Leonard video. It's really up to you. But you definitely should watch anything that I post. If I posted it, there's a reason that I posted it, right? I mean, if it's me, if I made that video, there's a reason that I made that video, okay? So you can kind of play that out and see like what works for you. And everyone's different, right? Maybe one chapter you watch every video and your friend doesn't need to watch them, and then the next chapter the roles get reversed, right? You're lost and they get it, or whatever, whichever way I said the first time. So you can sort of feel your way through the class as far as of how many of the videos you need to watch. But you definitely shouldn't like skip all of them, right? Make sure that you understand what's going on. And then you can see there's some discussions and some quizzes from time to time that are in here that you'll cover. Like this one has an exam one preparation, just sort of talking about getting ready for the test. And then the first test goes, I think, through second derivative. I think I set it up so it's like this chapter right here on applying the derivative, like right in the middle. That's where the test goes up to. It'll say in here, let's see, exam one prep. Yep, up through the second derivative test. So you can see that's right in the middle of this chapter 3. So the first test will go up to halfway through chapter 3. Okay, and as you saw, there's a practice test and stuff to get ready for that. Okay, so you've got your XYZ homework up through chapter 3. Make sure you're good to go with that and all ready. Where am I? Is there any other questions that popped up? Okay, so let's see. Where was I? Topic on exams. All right, we went there. Let's go. And you don't turn in the practice exam. That's just for you to work on, right? So that you can become familiar with what to expect on the actual exam. Okay. Right, let's go back to the syllabus. There was a few things in there. Okay, so we talked about homework, talked about exams, behavior. Okay, so behavior, oops, I actually should edit that a bit. So behavior should, generally should be obvious. This is almost never an issue, but, every once in a while, every few semesters, we get someone who sort of doesn't quite get how to behave around other people. Just basically be a grown-up and be a good person, right, is what we're looking for. Just be a good person, basically. So don't harass people in, anything that you do in Canvas or anything that's related to this class, even if it's online, is the same as if it's happening in a classroom at school. So if you wouldn't say this to a person's face in a classroom on campus, don't put it in the discussion forum, right? For to a discussion thread or anything like that. Just treat people with respect. You all have the same goal, which is to complete this class successfully. In some sense, you're all on the same team working, you can be resources to help each other get through this class. So just don't be weird. Don't, sometimes people do kind of creepy stuff or anything just don't do anything like that, right? Just be a good person, treat people with respect, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Any school policies apply to discussions and anything that's related to this class. So like I say, just be a good person. Right. No cheating. You kind of can't really cheat much in this class. I mean, I guess you could cheat on the homework, but then you're just setting yourself up to fail the exams. So, because the exams are proctored. So I wouldn't recommend that you cheat. You're just going to end up literally failing the class. Other than that, like I say, make sure you're showing up to class, because I'm now having to get strict about dropping people for non-attendance. So I don't want to drop people. In the past, I wouldn't drop people, but that's sort of not an effective way to teach the class anymore. We unfortunately have to have a little bit of a stick here. Okay, important dates. So June 21st, which is like tomorrow, that's census. So let me double check I got these dates right. Yep, tomorrow is the last date to drop this class without a W. So if you're still enrolled in this class at midnight, that means you will finish the class with an A, B, C, D, F. No, what, did I say that right? A, B, C, D, F, or W. And then after, if you're still enrolled in the class after July 18th, you will get an A, B, C, D, or F, right? So I'm not suggesting that any of you drop the class, but just it's part of being a strategic. Part of being a good student is being strategic. Some people think it's just about being smart, or it's just about working hard. Sometimes you have to be strategic, right? I've had really smart students choose really poor schedules, and then they end up failing classes just because they tried to take too much in one semester. So part of it is being strategic, and stuff happens to people, right? You and most of you know this. Stuff happens. Someone in your family gets sick, or your car breaks and then you can't make it to work, or stuff happens in people's lives that make it really hard. So if all of a sudden you find yourself in a position where you're going to fail this class, it might be better to get a W than an F. Right? So it's just important to know when those dates are so that you can make that decision. It's not unusual at all for me to have students come to me and say, I'm starting to think I should drop this class. And then we look at it and I go, yeah, it might be a good idea, except the drop date was last week. So sorry, you can't drop now. And we can't really make exceptions for that kind of stuff. Like, it won't even let me drop you after a certain date. It's not like I have the power to do that. So you just want to know when those dates are so that you can make a good decision and go, man, life fell apart halfway through this semester and I don't want to get an F. Well, then you can drop by the right time. And W's aren't great on your record, but they're generally better than F's. So just depends, on whatever. So you can know when those dates are. Here's the ADA statement. So if that pertains to you, then you can get your appropriate information here. If that doesn't pertain to you, like if you don't know what I'm talking about with the ADA statement, then you don't have to worry about it. Okay. Right. Did we get through everything? So is there any other questions about things I did not cover? We have kind of an optional review chapter up front. Factoring is really important in this class. If you have forgotten how to factor, you need to get a review of it. You will not be able to pass this class without factoring. So you could work on some review, go to the tutoring center, get help with factoring. That's a thing you're going to want to know how to do. Different stuff, and then just start working through the homeworks and make sure you understand how the stuff works. Any other questions? Let's see. Yeah, so I think so there's a question about the making the testing center appointment and the request form. I believe so. That request form is new, so I'm glad they did it. I think it's much better for students. But that's kind of new for me. But I believe, yeah, you're supposed to use that request form, and then they will confirm with you. So don't assume just because you requested it that you got your appointment. Sometimes he has to shift people a little bit. Like he'll go, oh, well, you wanted 10 o'clock, but we're full at 10. Can you do, like a lot of times he'll ask like, oh, can you do 10:15? And then, and then you get your appointment. But so just pay attention to that. But yeah. Use that request form to set up your appointment. Do it soon and then know when it is, obviously, so that you have it set up. They do need your 900 number, which you can just get by looking in the VC portal, like where you registered for classes. but you'll need that 900 number in order to fill it out. Like, that's kind of how it works on campus. They almost never can access your records unless they have a 900 number for a student. That's one reason we protect those 900 numbers so much, is because we don't want anyone having your 900 number. Right, and then we're going to work through stuff. So calculus in general is broken up into two main sections. So there's the derivative calculus, which we'll do for the first few chapters, and then there's the integral calculus, which we'll do for the last couple chapters. So there's kind of two main sections, but it's broken up into 6 chapters. Some of you need the second semester of this course, which is multivariate calculus. That class in the district, I think Moore Park is the only campus that offers that class. So if you're someone who needs the sequel for this class, start looking at Moore Park to sign up for that next one. Most of you don't need it. There's usually only like 4 or 5 people in the class who need it, depending on what your major is. But if you need that, Moore Park's the place to look, at least inside this district. So you can be ready for that. And yeah, other than that, I think we'll meet up on Thursday, and then we'll dive into stuff. There's not really enough time for me to get into a math lesson today, but I'll start talking about stuff Thursday. We'll go through it. So in the meantime, get yourself set up on the homework, get that account set up, make sure everything looks good, so that you're all ready to go with the homework. Start working on getting a hold of the bookstore and see if you can get that license from the bookstore, and then start trying to work on getting your appointment set up for the testing center so that you don't have to lose any sleep over it, wondering if all the times you need are gone. You just have them set up now, and then you'll be good to go. I really don't want any of my students to miss out on testing. Right, I want you all to be able to go in and test so that you can get a score on those tests. So please make those appointments, and then just start looking at this, start seeing how you can progress through the class. If you can start doing the homework and getting it done. Like, again, don't wait on it, because you might go, well, the homework's not due till next week. Yeah, but it's a whole chapter. It's like 7 sections or 6 sections, I forget. It's like a bunch of sections, and the way this book is set up, we get into some complicated stuff pretty quick. So I will pick out some topics to cover next time that I think are probably what students need the most. If you want to get a hold of me, just please send me detailed information. Make sure I have all the information that I need. Sometimes someone will say, just like read your message and try to decide if it's detailed enough that I'll know what you're talking about. Sometimes people say things that are so open, I don't really know even what to address. It's like it would take me a week to cover that much material, right? So try to be specific. If it's a specific homework problem or a specific Canvas issue, again, sending me a screenshot can be incredibly helpful, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Otherwise, we're good. So the way I usually close class out is I'll shut down the YouTube stream, but then I usually leave Zoom open until everyone leaves, because usually there's people who want to ask me questions at the end of class, and I'm happy after class to wait around and answer all the questions that you need. So if you have a question about how the class is going to work, or say on Thursday, like you've started doing some homework and then you have a particular homework problem you want me to help you with, we can do that after class, right? So any kind of questions or concerns that you have, I'm happy to talk to you about class, but we usually do that in Zoom. That way you can talk to me directly, right? So we're going to do that now. So anyone who's on the YouTube stream who wants to actually talk to me, come join us in Zoom. Use that link that's on the Canvas page right up here for class meetings. Use that link to come meet us in Zoom, and then you can talk to me. Otherwise, I will see you in a couple days. Good work, everybody. Do those things I mentioned, and I'll see you in a few days. Thanks.